left in the.
And hello everyone and welcome to yet another stream of Code with Italians, which today is Mediterranean edition. Hello Jose, welcome. This is your first time on Twitch, right?
Yeah, I have no idea what's going on and what's going to happen, but I'm very excited to be here because it means that finally I'm going to be working on something with Seb, which is something that we tried, right? But
right. The closest we've gotten so far was complaining about the iOS app, I think, right?
Yeah.
Well, the code you wrote specifically in the iOS app.
I've done that with a lot of people, so it doesn't count.
That's fine. Just let me check quickly something.
I'm totally overwhelmed with the chat and all the things happening.
Yeah, we already have people actually spending Italian points. So we need to drink some water.
I've just done it. Cheers. But happy to. So, Jose, for you that don't know what's going on, Just the TLDR is that while you watch the channel, you can accumulate Italian points that are the thing underneath the chat, and you can spend them to do various things. For example, to make us drink water, such as this. And on top of that.
Wait. Why do people do that?
Because it's well, like the drinking water is the silly thing, but you can also do you can also name things in the code or commit messages or even the next episode, which so far hasn't absolutely backfired. If you recall, your first question was, why the fuck is this class called whatever? And that was the reason. So
yes, we have contribution. Let's say we have live contributions to the code.
Can you kiss your mother with that
You can buy a variable. You can buy a class name. You can buy.
What do I get for being here?
Well, you are actually probably also in the chat, so you are earning points. Because you can earn Italian points while you watch the stream. So I think you're going to accumulate points and then you can actually troll us on chat.
But you're the guest, so you kind of get the default ability to do some of the things that people can do with points. So you can name things if you want. You're allowed to.
Well, that's for sure.
Sounds good.
That's for sure.
Okay, so
so I just want to thank Mark publicly, and I want to remember that you can support us if you have an Amazon Prime subscription. So we know that Uncle Jeff just went to space, and that's a cool thing. He also came back. That's also a cool thing. But another cool thing is that, well, he gave you money, kinda. If you have an Amazon Prime subscription, you can connect it with your Twitch account and you can support us for free. Basically, on our channel, if you will see subscribe with Prime, and it's going to be free for you. We are going to get a couple of bucks and we are going to buy swag and we are going to hire a designer for the rest of the app. So thank you for your support. Thank you, Mark, for your 3 months.
Think of it as those $2 that you send us are not going to be used to build another space penis.
Well, no. Okay, I want to point out that the shape of the rocket apparently has a lot of mathematics reasoning behind.
I'm sure there are.
So it's not. I'm pretty sure that there was the initial decision for the shape. So, and if they are not covering up with mathematics after, it's like, writing test before or writing test after. So I don't think that was the case.
What stream is this? Is this the right one? Okay.
This is the random. This is the random one, but we are going to code also at some point, so don't worry.
Now I am going to show the screen so people can actually see the code. Oh wow, Jose, your face is really zoomed in now. Okay, now it's better. I don't know. So yeah, there's a thing where when Skype drops the resolution, the result is that you get very zoomed in. So if your connection gets shitty for a second, we see you very, very closely.
I mean, it's all advantages with Skype.
Yeah, well, it's a free dramatic zoom effect that we get.
Wow. No, I'm seeing it, and it's really horrible. Okay.
Well, it should stabilize over time. It generally happens at the beginning, and then it sorts itself out. I've seen. That said, let's get cracking. So. Because yesterday there was the release of the new Android Studio Arctic Fox RC1 version, I have updated it, and I've also updated the Android Gradle plugin. So if shit stops working, we know why.
We know. We have a revert commit coming in.
Yeah,
right
worst
away.
case scenario, that's committed, and I can revert it, and I can use Toolbox to roll back Android Studio, but let's hope it's not necessary.
Fingers crossed.
Okay, so Jose, explain to me, like I have no idea what UI testing is because
Wait, again overwhelmed. I was trying to tweet that we're live. So
yeah, sure, go for it.
Can I do that? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
I will have a mint in the meantime.
Action.
No, it's done. I was going to try to be funny, but I just said we're live.
That's fine.
Hopefully I retweeted the correct tweet. Anyway, what was the question?
The moment we...
So we need to get started doing UI testing, but I personally have no idea where to start. So can you give me a quick explanation?
Scusi.
Tu sei un pazzo, va via da qui.
Thank you, Mark.
So Mark found the sounds. Okay.
Looks like it, yeah.
Yeah.
We were saying.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay, so by the way, I'm still super zoomed in. This is
I'm gonna
terrible.
try and fix it while you speak. Don't worry. It's just a ruse to try and get things sorted.
Okay, so UI testing is about testing your screens, and the difference with the unit tests that you... Oh yeah, that's much better. The difference with unit tests is that normally UI test is something much bigger with a much bigger scope because, well, by definition, you are rendering pixels to a screen. So you need the framework to do that for you. So normally a UI test is run on a device, an emulator, or a real physical device. So yeah, they are much slower than unit tests that run on your local machine, but obviously they are going to give you a different kind of feedback. They're usually used for acceptance or for compatibility testing. So that means that in UI tests, you can make sure that your screen works well with a big range of different devices by running the tests on different devices and emulators. And yeah, I think that's basically it. The way you do UI testing is different to unit testing in that probably you will not do TDD with UI tests, although some people like to do it. So a UI test is something that you do after a screen is done and probably manually tested, and you want to make sure that it never breaks. So you plant a UI test to make sure that your flows are correct, but they're never going to be as exhaustive as what you might have in a unit test where you test all the edge cases.
Okay, so we use instrumentation tests essentially, where we run the application on a device, physical or emulated, and then do we need to do like screenshot testing? Do we have other ways to check correctness? Do we use Espresso? How does it work with Compose? Because I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't want to start from the beginning to explain testing in Android because it would take a long time. What you said is almost true. So UI tests are normally instrumented tests, but instrumented tests are called like that because they use a specific class in the framework called instrumentation, and that is the interface between your test and the thing under test, so your app. And some UI tests can be run locally, for example, using Roboelectric, So that means that they are no longer instrumented tests. So that's something to take into account. When you read UI tests, normally people mean instrumented tests, but there are some exceptions.
Okay.
A screenshot test is a UI test, sure, because you're verifying the UI. But normally we call screenshot tests, and when we refer to UI tests, we're talking about using frameworks such as Espresso or Compose test. And those are going to communicate with the app under test in a special way and are going to be able to read the state and verify that, and also inject events such as clicks. And they're going to be able to verify that the state that you are asserting against is what you expect.
Okay. I have started up the emulator in the meantime. I don't know if you are vaguely familiar with the app or not, but I'll show you around. I was thinking maybe we can write a couple of tests for the onboarding flow.
Yeah, so I took a look earlier. Maybe we should. Can we talk a little bit about unit tests and how I would start testing an app? Because I mean, UI tests are just part of the story. You should always have a plan for testing, not just add tests without thinking too much about it. So the test story that you have on an app is very important. You have to take into account the type of app. This one, for example, has as far as I've seen, it has kind of two screens, an onboarding and the main screen, right? So that is one factor to take into account. Also the team, the experience of the team, how willing they are to add tests, how much they like testing as well. And also factors such as, do you have a good CI system in place? When do you run your tests? Do you have pre-commit hooks or pre-submit hooks and checks like that? So all those things are part of the testing story. And there's something that you have to define.
Okay, so
how to do that, that's another story. So I would start, we all know the testing pyramid. Some people call it the testing pile of poo as well. The base is always, the base is always the unit tests. They say that you should have way more unit tests than anything else. In our case, we're probably going to have, in Android, it's a little bit different, because what is an integration test, right? The pyramid is normally unit, integration, and end-to-end. Let's just talk for now about unit tests at the bottom and UI tests at the top. So I took a look, and I found this. So I know that you have some tests, and you're testing everything related to dates, which is hard, right? Which makes a lot of sense. And this is exactly where I would start. This is completely isolated from the Android framework, so it's a great candidate for unit tests. And also, these are basically mathematical functions, right? So they have to be tested. They have a lot of edge cases. So that's the perfect candidate for simple unit tests. And this should be super fast. I'm sure they pass in a millisecond or so.
I mean, Gradle permitting, yes. When they start running, they take a few milliseconds.
Once they start,
Boom.
Sure.
I'm always super jealous about your machine.
Come on, Ivan, you'll get the new one soon. Don't worry.
I'm getting the new one, so I'm happy with that. I'm a bit poor now, but I'm happier.
Well,
that's a trade-off in life.
You have to sign up with the Prime stuff on Twitch or whatever to make Ivan rich. So
yes,
please donate. We also have a Patreon, and what else?
No, we don't have a Patreon.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
We don't have OnlyFans. We don't have Patreon. we are just sticking to just bullshit over Twitch talking about Andre stuff. That's the thing. And we want to print t-shirts. That's the whole the whole thing. So thank you.
Why don't you make the money from selling them after? Is that you don't have like any euros to spare? They have to come from the stream.
The idea is that we want to experiment if we can build a community that creates and teach on Twitch for free open source stuff. So the swag is going to be just a way to engage people. The idea is that eventually we are going to start to raffle like t-shirts and other things during the stream for the followers and for the subscribers. And eventually you start building a bit of momentum, and we want to keep streaming a couple of times a week. We also have other projects and guests that want to join. So this is fun, and this is for learning and to show that even if we are doing this like for a long time, we don't know what we are doing. And this is a great message that we want to give to the the younger and the younger generations, let's say, because we are getting old, but we also want to lead by example. We have no idea what we are doing. So don't be ashamed that you don't know things. There is Google for that, and there is the right mindset. And the mindset is what we are showing live here, right? Just try and punch things in the face until they work. Read a bit of documentation, read a bit of source code. That we compose is beautiful, by the way. It's super useful. So that's the idea. It's not that we don't have money or want to make money. It's more like let's build a community.
Ivan, I want to interrupt your beautiful speech for a second just to say that I love that someone in the chat started doing your job now.
Okay, so they are replacing me. I'm useless now. Okay, I can retire. Beach and martini, yay! But thank you. This is the engagement that we want. And by the way, we are crushing every fucking record, Jose. So this is just crazy. So thank you for joining us.
I mean, as long as it's better numbers than Florines, I'm
this is gonna be very bad, Sebastiano, from me and you. The moment Florina catches on the VOD, this is gonna be so bad for us.
She's welcome to come back and beat Jose again.
That's the spirit.
Revenge.
I'm gonna monetize this.
Revenge Twitch channel.
Do testing is the hot topic this year. Didn't you know? Yeah. It might not be the year of the Linux desktop, but it looks like it's the year of testing on Android. There's so much happening. So
Mark has decided that we're gonna call a variable "No Way Jose" at some point.
I get that a lot. Yeah. Okay. But I approve.
Let's see when we get to a variable, but let's try to remember that.
Yes, we're just gonna have a note here because I don't want Mark to feel, forgotten.
Okay, Jose, we were talking about tests some time ago.
Okay. So unit tests first. These are the most isolated tests or most isolated subject under tests. So this is great. Next step, I would look for view model tests.
Okay, we don't have any of those.
We should probably do like a drinking game every time someone says test or something, because it's gonna happen a lot. So I did check and I didn't see any unit tests on view models, and that's a shame because coding with TDD when you're doing view models actually makes a lot of sense. And I'm not going to push for TDD. I think it's a little bit utopian to write tests first, but I sometimes like to write tests at the same time than I'm coding whatever I'm doing. So it makes a lot of sense to do it at the same time as you create your view models, I think. Especially now that we're using, well, if you come from RxJava, you already know that, but we're moving the mainstream to flows, and it can get tricky. And unit tests actually uncover a lot of bugs that you might have, and makes you think about observability and am I going to have multiple values? How am I going to respond to that? All those things. So I actually didn't look at it. What are you exposing in view models? Is it live data, flows,
just
or
flows
RX?
and a Florina as well.
Yeah, because that was yeah. This is what we do. So there is a flow named Florina. Yeah. And we also have another variable. Good. That's perfect.
We cannot use emoji for symbol numbers, so we're gonna have to go with dolphin.
Nice. What are you talking about?
Someone redeemed naming a function as well, so we're gonna have to call it function dolphin. Just to be clear, it doesn't have to be only dolphin. It must contain dolphin, or it can be a variation on dolphin. So we can like flow and Florina. It can make sense. It should make sense because I'm the one that ultimately has to maintain the code. So it better make some fucking sense. So in the case, for example, of this view model here, so many new followers. Hello, welcome everyone. In the case of this view model,
Sebastiano, do you kiss your mother with that mouth?
Hi, Mark.
Oh Jesus Christ! Okay.
Oh my God! Do you get anything done?
Sometimes we do. I think people are particularly active today. I don't know why. It must be you, Jose.
I'm sorry.
Definitely.
So
no.
What would you test, for example, in this view model where we essentially only expose flows and we set values?
Yeah. So the obvious thing here is that you would have to replace your preferences with a double.
Mm-hmm.
So we get into
we have an interface already, so
religious wars here. But yeah, you should probably get an interface somewhere. Well, this is already an interface, so that's going to make make this a little bit easier. Let me think. Did we create a fake preferences? I think so. So first thing I would try would be to create a fake preferences object, or maybe a class. I would start with an object. It would be outside the test class because it's going to be reused a lot. Okay. And it's important to note that this only lives in your test directory. So it's not going to be part of your app. You're not loading it or anything like that.
So I'm going to, because we are good people, we already have extracted an interface for our preferences. So it's easy now, quote unquote, to just create a test fake.
That's actually an interesting thing to discuss. Do you create interfaces for just one class because it's the right thing to do, or do you do it only when you need to?
Personally, I do it when I know that it's something that is going to be involved in tests and I might need to create a fake for, and or when I know that I'm going to need to replace it further down the line. So for example, in the case of the preferences, initially we had a share preference backed implementation. Then when Florina came, we replaced it with an implementation that uses data store. So that was the reason why we originally had the interface in the first place, because we knew we would replace it at some point. But it also obviously is very helpful for writing tests, because then you don't need to mock stuff. You don't need to go crazy with all open plugins and things like that, which if you don't need to use, it's better not to use as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, but you have the experience and already, and when you're going to have to use something. So to a junior or a beginner, I would say not to obsess with that and just move to an interface when you need to. because there's nothing worse than having hundreds of empty files.
Yeah.
Well, it actually got better with Kotlin, because you can have a bunch of stuff on the same file, but in the Java days, you ended up with 50 different files that did nothing.
I still like to try and keep especially big things like big objects and classes and interfaces in separate files. The only exception I have is, for example, when I have an interface that has a private implementation next to it and has the factory function. So in that case, I maybe keep them together, or maybe I have a class, a private class, and the public or internal function that creates an instance of that in the same file. But otherwise, I try to keep things separate because I like small files. Given I don't pay by the file, it makes it much easier to manage things than to have a 1,000 lines file with 15 classes inside.
In my experience, even if you think about, when you are multi-module in a multi-module project, or you have versional control, usually the interfaces, or most of them, are in my domain module, and then you have the implementation maybe in another module, and then that's why you have an interface that is basically probably just a couple of lines, and it's in a model in a module that it's there because everybody knows about the domain, because that's the core part. But usually I don't want to obsess. The thing that we did here, it was like we thought about the whole replacing things, and also made Florina very happy the fact that we already had an interface. So it was a bit planned, and as you said, comes from experience. So it's not like a dogma. It's more like, emerged over time. The more you do it.
Yeah. So I was thinking, I don't know if it makes sense to have like an object, or maybe to make this a class. So every time we run the test, we can alter the state of the preferences and assert against that. So maybe in this case, I would make it a class.
Yeah, that depends. Do you want your fakes to have state, or do you want to just be, have stubs and be programmed with a specific return value? So that's what I mean. So if in here, if what you're going to return in one of the methods is just a new flow, with a flow builder, then you don't need to make it a class, right? Because it's always going to be a new flow. And that's enough for testing.
Yeah, it might be okay for now.
So I would keep it as simple as possible. Yeah. And then if you need to, then it is. But by the way, we should add the disclaimer. All the test double terminology.
Everyone has their own.
Yeah, I have my own, which I'm going to make official probably at some point. But yeah, some people replace mocks with stubs, and they use fakes for everything, but normally everything is referred to as doubles. So yeah, it depends.
Yeah, that's. I've actually a few months ago I was researching an article that I was writing about test doubles and fakes and mocks, and yeah, I read a number of articles and a number of references to try and condense it, and yeah, what I found out is that what I thought was a fairly well understood distinction is not. Depending on the domain, depending on the person, depending on a number of things, names are completely different.
Do you want to talk about it? I mean, it's the most boring topic in the world, but I mean, it's very interesting to me to see what other people...
talk about it while I fill in the basics for this, so that we can write some tests together about.
Okay. So one of the things that made it click for me when researching terminology was that probably in the Java world, we are a little bit used to using frameworks such as Mockito and calling everything mocks. But my understanding is that a mock is used when you want to verify that something was called. However, if you're just using Mockito to program a double to return something specific, and that's it, and you're not verifying that any methods were called, then that is called a stub. So let's say that mock is a more sophisticated kind of stub because it records, or it can record the calls that you've made. That is the conclusion I reached. But again, you can go to another website or another book, and it's going to say something completely different. But I'm happy with that one.
So you will probably, if I get it correctly, you will still return values with the mock, or just use the mock to only if you have to verify something. So so the mock is more like a richer stub, because it gives you back the value, but it also gives you the ability to check if you are calling a function,
Exactly.
the amount of times that you actually want to call it. And that's the classic. And I was like, oh, it looks like it's working, and then you check the logs, and the print line that you forgot there is actually appearing 15 times.
Yeah. I've been there. Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, that's the classic. That's the super classic. So yeah,
I think we live in. I think we are a little bit confused with that because in Android we've always used Mockito, and I don't think there's a way to create a stub without it being a mock, right? As far as I know. So that's
no, I don't think you can.
So yeah, I think that's why I was confused about it personally.
So I have created a very bare bone fake implementation that only emits true, or an empty set, or an empty map, or a default whatever. So
okay, so one thing that I would do now is to name the fake accordingly to what it does, because fake preferences, unless you're going to use it as a class in the future, so something that is programmable, let's say, at this point, because it's so static, I would I would be very specific.
Okay, that's a good point. So now we can, for example, say that we can assert, for example, that the day's schedule flow is going to be empty. So for example, here we have an empty date, empty data fake preferences onboarding view model, and we can oh, actually, this kind of gets me to the point of how to test flows, because that's kind of big question, and I haven't really done it, so I don't know.
It's a huge question, and I think the answer is you use first, or you use toList. Those are the two main tools that you're going to use in a test that uses uses flows, basically.
So
now,
here, for example,
now you're not going to be able to do that because it's coroutine. Well, I mean, it's a suspend function, right?
Yeah, but I can run blocking the shit out of it, I guess.
And then we get into the
right
coroutine.
Just to see if it works. But yeah, there's probably better ways to do that. So you said here I would do first, which is collecting the data out of here.
Yeah, it's collecting the data, and whenever it has one item, it cancels the collection, and that's it.
Oh.
I'm not sure if I'm being technically correct. Is it canceling the collection?
I think so. I don't know the terms too well
It's,
either.
I think it's how is it called? Terminal operator, right?
So collect is a terminal operator, but
also first and things like last, those are, and also to list, I think it's a terminal operator.
Yeah.
So that will be the name for that, I guess. I'm no expert. I knew a bit of Eric's Java back in the days, but
you wrote a fucking book about it, dude. You better know, RX.
It was a small book.
Do you know?
It was a fast book.
Do you know anyone working on JetBrains? Because I have a feature request.
I don't.
I would like to go to the. By the way, the new KDocs are really cool. I mean, the reference docs. I would like a link to go to the GitHub repo where this lives, so I can check the source code.
Where what lives?
In this case, I'm looking for the first. So I'm looking at the first.
Oh, you mean from here, going to the GitHub, like having open on shown GitHub thing.
I wasn't talking about that, but yeah, I'm talking about the website, but whatever.
Oh well.
That's fine.
You can annoy Hadi on Twitter. I think that works.
Yeah, I can actually.
Okay, so
let me.
Shall we try this? Let's see if it runs.
Sure.
Well, it will run. Let's see if it fails. No, it doesn't fail. Okay, it doesn't fail. That's
okay. At this point, I would immediately make the test fail because, a green test at first try is weird.
Suspicious.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say means that I'm really good at coding.
I mean, we kind of told you what to write, so sure.
It's a master at work. It's a master at work.
Okay.
Okay, now we have to talk about the elephant in the room, which is that you used run blocking.
Yeah.
But there is another function called run blocking test, isn't it? Or is it run test blocking? I've written it 1,000 times, but now.
Run blocking test, but you need.
I need the dependency, I think, right?
It's part of the coroutines test library, so it's going to be. Now it does some things for you.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
So, for instance, every delay that the body of the run blocking test sees is going to be ignored. So that's going to make your tests pass way faster. But I've had a lot of problems with it, and a lot of people have as well. And the workaround is to simply use run blocking. So it's something that I think is pending to be fixed somehow.
I have full confidence in my colleagues' abilities.
Well, I mean, we have been using it because I got a lot of those, the coroutine didn't complete kind of thing. Those errors over and over and over. The flow didn't complete or things like that. And so the approach that I read about it that actually made me in my habit, in my workflow, is basically having dispatchers that are injectables, and then you have a test version where you have like a test rule, and you have this dispatcher that is replaced. There was a bit of a blast from the past, because with RX Java you were doing kind of the same thing with schedulers, while you were actually replacing them in a bit more aggressive way, because they were a plugin that it was like, you could actually do it a bit more aggressively. But with Kotlin, it became like nice habit to have dispatchers that can be injected and should be injected, especially because I'm working with a team where we are building APIs, or actually implementation of APIs, where we take care of the threading, where we want to be sure that that the threading is done, is correct. So a few people, they just bubble up the suspend function, and eventually at the consume level you pick the dispatchers. Our approach is more like, okay, I know that this thing is a network call or is a IO something, so at the bottom of the implementation, I run it with context IO, and I know that the thing is gonna, and we know as a convention in the theme that if it's going against network or database, the implementation itself has to do the threading. So I don't want to care if I'm in my view model, oh, is this thing like IO? I don't want to care about it, because so we are injecting dispatchers even in a very small area of the source code, because you are just where you need them, and on the with context, basically you just inject the dispatcher there, and yeah, so it simplifies a lot, even from a testing point of view eventually.
Yeah, I think injecting dispatches is even in the official docs right now, so it is definitely a best practice. And
yeah,
do we want to clarify why we make some decisions and why we're talking about these things on dispatchers, or is this not the kind of stream?
This is the kind of stream we want it to be. So
yeah, please, if you have any kind of wish or curiosity, please just go with it. I mean, what do you mean clarify? How do you imagine clarifying dispatchers, please?
No, what I mean is that when testing, it is very hard to keep your all your threads, all your operations that happen in parallel and in the background in check, right? You have to make sure that you control everything in a test so that they are deterministic and they always do exactly the same thing. So what we're talking about here is about injecting dispatchers so that they can be replaced at test time with dispatchers that we control, and dispatchers that are going to make our tests wait until they are done so that we can move on to the next statement, which can be the verification or whatever. So yeah, I have this urge to explain these things because it's my job, but maybe we can.
This is great.
All right. By the way,
because
sure.
So the implementation bit will be, if you're using something like a dispatcher, I may probably this is probably going to be a bit either super wrong or super far from reality. So it's give me the benefit. But as far as I understood, when you're using something like a dispatcher's IO, you are picking from a pool of possible coroutines, I guess, or threads. I will probably say threads. Well, when you're running tests, you are replacing it with something that is like immediate, or like you basically it's one, right? So you know that they are deterministic because they become somehow sequential, right? So they simplify the threading part. Am I correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And then it gets a little bit harder because the test is always going to be deterministic. All the threads are going to be run in the same way, but maybe that is hiding some race conditions that you have in your app, because the test is always green, but that doesn't mean that the app is going to follow that behavior all the time, right? So this is something that, concurrency is super hard, right? It's probably one of the hardest.
Do you have strategies? Yeah. Well, also naming, but we also have a lot of help with the naming thing. So we have people in the chat that help us with naming things. So we solved the naming issue. Do you have a strategy for this kind of I want to call it investigation because I'm a bit of a romantic person on this kind of stuff. When shit hits the fan, and things don't start to work, and you're like, this is not happening on the debug build. It's happening on the only when I run the debugger or that, and then you're like, this is a race condition somewhere. So, do you have strategies for that kind of debugging session? I know that it's not testing because it's probably like, but as you said, you probably did the right thing writing tests, but at some point the tests were so simplistic that they are actually now hiding the weirdness, that you actually have in the real app. So what will be your strategy to fix this? Or some experience, do you have like anecdotes that you can talk without, going to jail for NDAs and things like that?
Just to make sure, that question is for the chat, right? Because it was a very long question. It took you to like 10 minutes to make it. So all right.
So, but I was actually flanking you,
Okay. Do we read the chat? Because Pablo has an interesting note here. My personal rule point. Well, I'm gonna read it.
Yeah,
anyway.
read it.
My personal rule for
Right.
interfaces is if the component uses resources external to the module, I guess. Oh, test double, no interfaces. Pablo, can you clarify? But I assume that he means that when a component is used in multiple modules, you have to rely on interfaces.
Nice. There was something also. Yeah, there was also. Nice. There was also something from. I think Mark. That was. This is a meetup. Yes. Mark was actually saying that the interface. The interface mindset and the splitting the implementation in another module, there was the part that can give you advantage when you are trying to build like some sort of clean architecture or hexagonal architecture or like port and adapter architecture. So that connects a bit to what we were saying, the having the interface in the core module and then things around. I'm just trying to give Pablo time to reply. A lot of
there's an interesting question about modules. I can try to answer it while Seb frantically codes away.
I'm almost done with the basic tests, so then we can build some more interesting stuff on top of it. But you're talking about
this is super interesting.
You're talking about a bunch of really cool things, so please don't let me interrupt you.
Okay, so Eba Mekawi. Sorry for destroying your name. I can't run tests from another module. It has to be in the app module in order to run. Is this true? So it's very simple. If you are talking about unit tests, then your module has to depend. So you have to clear the dependencies that you have. And that's why from the app module, because normally the app module has dependency on the rest of the modules, you are going to be able to see the other classes that you are trying to test. If you're talking about a UI test, that is always true because you need to build the whole app in order to test it. So the instrumented tests have to be either in the app module or in a different module that depends on the app module. It's not really a limitation. It's an obvious thing, right? You cannot access something that you don't depend on.
Is it Where are you, Sebastian?
So what I've done is I've slightly tweaked the fake. I am making it return the default values for the preferences. So now we're testing a useful case, which is we are starting the application for the first time. What does the view model emit? What is the values that it's providing to the UI? And I've also realized that I don't have a default constant defined in the data store preferences, so I'm gonna do it now. And well, this is easy.
So unit tests might not find a lot of bugs at this point, but it makes you think about code organization and things like this that you might be missing. So
yeah,
kids make tests.
Kid make tests? What did you say? Cool kids, you mean? You mean cool kids?
Children, comma, make tests.
Oh, okay.
Exclamation mark.
That makes more sense. Okay. Oh no,
yeah, maybe make is not the word that you would use in
in
real English. Write tests.
Yeah.
Sure.
Or don't do drugs. Like you do drugs, but you don't do tests.
Also stay in school.
Yeah.
You know, we can do the full.
And don't forget the underwear T-shirt, because you're gonna get cold otherwise.
Yes,
I think we are officially in grandma mode now.
Yeah. So don't do pineapple on pizza.
All right.
I was going to bring that up, but
yes. Yes.
It's good you didn't. So I have just added that. Crush lytics enabled. Let's see if I have fucked up something somewhere.
Okay, so don't do track tests. So now, can you run with coverage?
Sure.
Right now, just to see how ridiculous your coverage is right now?
Ridiculously good.
You mean ridiculously good? Where is it?
Yeah,
well, it's gonna be
here somewhere.
Yeah,
here.
I mean, 1% is better than 0%, right?
Is it onboarding view?
16%.
16%.
16%.
Boom.
That's a lot.
It's these 3 lines. I mean, the bulk of the code is callbacks and setters, and the fake doesn't handle those, so that's expected.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Okay, so now the next step.
100%.
Oh wow.
Yeah. You see, audience.
So I guess now the next step would be to test those things, right? So because they set things on the preferences, you cannot use the object anymore. Yep. So it would be your decision to either create your fake that somehow stores values, or move on to a mocking framework and let it do its thing. There's a huge trend right now against mocking frameworks. I kind of, it's all fakes now. It's
everyone's so fake these days.
Exactly, with all the TikToks.
So,
and
how would you build a fake to also check the methods? Because I'm curious. Because I usually use mock.
What do you mean check the
verify...
methods?
Yeah. No, it's
you mean check that they're invoked?
Yeah, I mean, for instance, one of the functions that we need to test, they will probably call preferences dot set something. So or with Mockito, with mock, I will just verify that you call the method and you pass the correct parameters. How will you do this with the homemade fake?
I would do what Sebastian is doing, which is just having some variables that are set, but I would make the fake a class, and
yes, obviously.
And I mean, I would create a new one because this is the defaults one, which is very useful and to the point. But if you want to check behavior, then you would probably use something else.
Fair enough.
But
I was being lazy.
But should we move to UI tests? Because I mean, that's the whole point of the stream.
Maybe we can. Yeah, sure. Let's say this is done.
We are going with 16%.
Let's say this is done. We'll go back to it later if we have some spare time, maybe.
Okay. If you want UI tests, then donate $10. Please.
No.
Is that how it works?
No, we are not that greedy and we are not aggressive. We are doing it for the lols. So we are gonna give a UI test for free. So that's. But if you have an Amazon subscription, if you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe to our channel for free. So that's good. That's good for us.
So shall we get testing some UI?
Yes.
Let's assume that we have properly tested the view model with unit tests.
Exactly.
Okay.
So after that, I would look for some classes that do not have a lot to do with Android, and I would try to unit test those. But I would leave activities and fragments and things like that for UI tests. You can use raw electric if you really want to, if you really have a lot of logic in there.
But it's better if you don't have logic.
Yeah, exactly. If there's nothing to test, you don't need to test the activities, right? So, but yeah, normally activities are wiring and a little bit of navigation, but navigation can be covered by UI tests as well. So it's gonna get better with Compose. That is the summary of this stream probably. So let's get on with it.
We have actually, so the thing that eventually, Sebastian, we also have some commit message that we need to use.
I am doing it now,
one, I guess.
specifically because there's no UI tests in this commit.
Okay. Well, I should have seen that coming. Thank you for the subscription. Thank you for the subscription.
Thank you for the sub.
And we are gonna get some swag floater shipping around. We're gonna ship everything, the app, the swag, everything. So let's say that I build the app, like we have built the app. Okay, so we have the the unit tests for the very tiny things, maybe something that we build in TDD because it was mathematically biased, or like always happened on my side. I didn't have any idea how to build it, so TDD is the only way that I can do. We also tested the view model with fakes and stubs or mocks, where whatever our team is using, and we build the UI. Okay, so we're exactly where we are at the moment. We have an onboarding, seems like it's working. We want to be sure that it doesn't break. So what kind of tests are we gonna write? Some sort of regression test, or some sort of like a smoke test that goes across the onboarding? How do you imagine it, Jose?
I mean, smoke tests are, you cannot rely on them, right? Because they are random by definition, or quite random. So a smoke test, by the way, is something that clicks randomly or injects events randomly.
So you would use like a monkey for smoke tests.
Yeah. So one thing is the type of test in in a sense of what you're testing, and another categorization would be what you use it for, right? So a regression test, I mean, you're not going to write a regression test. You're going to write a UI test that you use for regression testing, right? So right now, we're not going to think about why we do things. We're just going to write the UI tests. Now, there's one thing that we have to think, and that is what the scope of the test is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
When you get into UI testing territory, you have to choose how much you want to test. The bigger the scope, the slower the test is going to be at running, the harder it's going to be to write. But with one test, you're going to cover a lot of things. So let's talk about specific things. You could do a UI test for the onboarding screen that uses the real view model, that uses and uses a fake preferences data store or repository or whatever you want to call it. So that is going to give you a lot of scope, because you are going to cover some lines in the view model, and that's good. But if you could fake the view model, then you wouldn't have to worry about the coverage in the view model, and you would probably be able to inject more situations that are harder to do from the fake preference. So it is really up to you, and it depends what you want to do. If you want to create very small tests, what I call unit UI tests or UI unit tests, then I would just test the UI and fake everything else, not even getting to the view model. But for example, if you want to test your navigation flows, then you need to think about activities and fragments, and you need something bigger. So in that case, you would somehow configure your test so that Espresso and Compose are able to know when your app is idle, which is the hardest part. But once you get there, you can just click away and navigate around in your app to make sure that everything is where it should be. Those kind of tests, I think, are more useful to detect crashes. You're not going to be looking at the position of elements or things like that. You just want to do a regression. That would be probably a regression test or something like that. So you run it and you go through all the screens, navigating for real, not starting the test every time, but just start the onboarding and you go through all the screens up to the end of a happy path, and you just make sure that it doesn't crash. That is super valuable, by the way. So that's one kind.
In terms of Compose, so this is something that would be much harder to do with the view system, but in Compose you can technically run UI tests on a single composable, right? You just run it as you would do with the preview. You just have an activity with the one composable inside, and you can do whatever you want with it and make sure that it works a certain way, which is useful. For example, in our case, we can have a test activity that only has the onboarding composable inside, and we can run through it. Or maybe we just want to test one of the pages of the composable or one of the elements that are in one of the pages, right?
Exactly. So that is the amazing thing about Compose test, for the Compose test APIs. So by the way, since no one else is listening, don't you think we should name the Compose test APIs? Because this is something that I've been saying from day one, and I had a lot of bloggers.
You mean like something like espresso, but not espresso?
Yeah. And I actually have some ideas to make it.
We can make a poll. Ivan, do you want to make a poll?
Yeah.
Let me check if I can figure it out, please.
Because I'm sick of saying the Compose test APIs, because actually sometimes I'm not referring to the APIs. I mean the Compose test mechanism, or it's so much easier to say espresso or espresso.
No, don't do that.
Huh?
This is a family-friendly stream to a point. We can swear, but we cannot do cultural insults.
That's the threshold. That's the threshold.
Okay. So hear me out. This is my idea.
Mm-hmm.
Espresso comes from the fact that Java is it's named after Java because Java uses the coffee logo, and also Java is an island famous for its coffee, right? So because Kotlin is also an island, it would have to be a version of something that is produced in the Kotlin island. And I looked it up, and I don't think there's much interesting going on there.
Send, probably.
But,
There's a church and a military base, as far as I understand, and that's it.
Yeah, so maybe we can call it AK-47. I don't know. Something like that, But
I think that's the cultural thing that we were talking about. Cultural appropriation.
So it would have to be something, following that logic, the same. So if someone can find something that is cool, I even looked at types of islands, and one type is coral, which is a pretty cool name, and also it starts with CO, but I don't think it's as catchy as espresso. It's probably never going to be, but
it's hard to beat espresso.
Yeah,
but maybe we can call it pizza.
Everyone
likes pizza. I don't know. It's the best marketing situation.
At that point, I mean, we can call it bacon because everybody loves bacon.
There's vegans and vegetarians out there. Be inclusive.
There's
people that don't eat pork.
Bacon.
So
yeah, they're actually the bacon is not. It's very not inclusive. Sorry, very not. Okay, well, fair enough. Yeah. I mean,
okay, think about it. Just think about it.
We take suggestions in the chat.
Put it there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the Compose test APIs are amazing because they let you do this thing called testing in isolation very, very easily. So you just choose one composable that you want to test against, and that's it. You don't have to do anything else.
Do I need dependencies for that, or?
Yeah, let's add some dependencies. So, so we should say that testing in isolation is something that you could do before, but it would probably be super hard and verbose. You would have to, I don't know, create test activities and things like that. But yeah, not worth it probably.
Is it this one? UI test?
No, get the JUnit 4 one. So it's UI-test JUnit 4.
But I used JUnit 5. Oh well. We'll figure it out. Is this one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought that was a snake oil. No?
What is?
Just making references.
This is the old shitty version, but it's good enough to copy paste the identifiers into the TOML. So there's that.
Oh, okay. Can you call it UI test for consistency?
All right. Yeah, I was going.
Okay.
Going ahead. And cannot generate blah blah blah. All right, that's the problem. I'm just gonna call it UI test like this because if you have a dash in here, it gets really confused.
Oh,
so that works. Yeah, I remember first time we set it up with Mark, it was a bit like, what is this complaining about? Okay, so we can have
okay. Before we continue, can you also add the UI test manifest artifact? And I will talk about that later. But this one,
like this?
This one has to be, yeah, that's it. This one has to be added to debug implementation.
Okay. So
Just because you're playing with Gradle and it's just architecture like groundwork, I just started the poll, so I was able to figure out Twitch. So we have a poll for like a few minutes. People can vote. Enjoy.
But you made the options up.
Well, I couldn't remember the one that we suggested. Sorry.
This is the professionality we have here. We somehow deliver.
Just yeah, man. This is how we roll, right? I mean, it's good enough. It's good enough.
I'm sure cappuccino with a K already exists.
Yeah, I would be surprised if it doesn't. But I was thinking in your honor, Jose, it could be cortado maybe. More.
So, cortado in Italy has a different meaning.
It doesn't exist in Italy. If you go to someone and ask a cortado to a bar, they're like, the fuck you talking about?
I thought it did.
No.
I saw a chart of like coffees because I was researching for this. I was trying to figure out a name.
Fair.
But then I realized it shouldn't be about coffee, So anyway, let's move on. Are we good?
Yeah, the only thing that might be problematic is that we're using JUnit 5 and this is using JUnit 4, but we can try and YOLO it and see if it works anyway.
I have no idea, but I came here to learn.
I know that there's a back compat layer in JUnit 5 to make JUnit 4 stuff work, but I wouldn't count on it. Let's see if that works. Otherwise, we have a feature request.
All right. So for now, we're going to create an instrumented test.
Okay.
So that means that it has to live in the Android test source set.
Yep.
We can also run compose tests on Robo Electric with some limitations, which are good limitations, by the way. So.
You mean useful or not too restrictive?
Oh, I'm very interested to see how you do this.
What?
Because so many times I have. Oh, you're typing it? There's no way to create a new file with the package?
Oh yeah, probably there is, but I'm just going step by step. I think I can do new whatever file and put the path here, but the package here, but I don't know if that works. I haven't tried. And as such, I'm playing it safe.
Okay.
My usual approach is I create the file and then I type the package at the top of the file, and IntelliJ is going to complain about the file is in the wrong directory. Do you want to move into the wrong directory? Yep. Alt enter driven development.
The lazy alternative is to create the file in a different source set and then move it to another source set.
Another alternative is to copy the package in another, not the package, the source set on a different. No, wait. How do you call the Java folder? What is that?
This one?
Well, anyway, yeah, I copy the Java folder and I put it in Android test, and then I remove all the files inside.
It's non-existent now.
Yeah. Okay.
So actually, doesn't matter.
Okay. Yeah, let's try to create an empty test to see if the JUnit 5 thing is going to be a problem.
Yeah. So let's say onboarding UI test, whatever. Okay, and here, what do I need to set?
Nothing for now.
Okay.
We will, if it fails, we will try to add the run with annotation, which is the one with the JUnit 4 runner thing. So let's start with the rule. And for now, do you remember the syntax? At get.
Yeah, So the thing is, I created some live templates back in the day when I was still using JUnit 4 because I didn't want to have to remember that. So no, I don't remember it. So
So @get capital R rule, new line, and val compose this rule, or whatever. Equals, and let's start with create Android compose rule. What? It's not there? Why is it not there?
Nope.
Did you sync?
I think I did. I did.
Sync successfully.
I was going to ask the same
No,
thing.
wait, maybe I know. Did we? Yeah, I think it's because we don't have the test runner here defined, the integration test runner.
I would be very surprised if that was the case.
Well, I
mean-
delete it when I don't need it, and I didn't need it.
No, it's there. You mean the test instrumentation runner?
Yeah.
Somebody,
All right,
somebody
it's
suggesting
there.
create
It's online.
composed rule.
No. Let's keep it on with the Android one first. Let me see the build Gradle with the dependencies.
What Maya is saying, aren't there issue with rules in JUnit 5? Probably, but the point is it doesn't even see it on the class path, so we're not even at that stage of stuff being broken.
We will get there
think-
at some point.
I think Giuseppe is suggesting, should it be create compose rule?
No,
compose
that's
rule?
what Jose was
No,
saying.
no.
We're not doing now.
We will,
Okay.
but not for now. So, I mean, you can try. If create compose rule is there, then
Nope.
they changed the API. But
No.
okay.
Jesus. Okay, that's
Okay,
not
show me
it.
the dependencies. Maybe you're not, you didn't add the Android test implementation.
Oh,
Or-
right. Yeah, it's the wrong one.
There you go.
Bam, 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 bam.
Also the, oh no.
That's
okay.
debug implementation you said for manifest, right?
Sure. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, now we have,
Okay.
and for now, type the onboarding activity there.
We only have one activity. Do you mean the screen or the main activity?
No, the activity itself.
Okay.
Oh, you only have one main
Yeah.
activity. Okay, that's fine. Create an empty test and run it. So-
Okay, test function, JUnit 4.
What?
I am sad.
We have
You're typing way more than just typing add test.
What? You've never done it.
Okay,
you-
go on. Can you do
we have
this
a question.
in JUnit 4?
No, I think the problem is that you cannot do it in instrumented tests.
Yeah, you
Sure.
can't use
Yeah,
directly.
that's true. Yeah.
We have a question. Giuseppe is asking, when do I use create compose rule?
We're gonna get
And
there. We're
create
gonna get
Android.
there. We're trying to get there. No, don't
Be patient. Be patient.
don't add
be
the
patient.
to do. Remove the to do. It has to be empty. I just want to see if it opens the.
Okay, I had
activity.
started the run, but I'm gonna restart the
Sure.
run.
Okay. Let's wait a couple of years.
Yeah, stop everything.
What? Never stop Gradle. That's like the worst thing you can do.
Fuck Gradle.
This is getting very, very, very.
Hey!
It's a nice,
spent
it's a nice session.
I spent the last.
The opinions expressed in this stream do not. I'm not
Are
third
your
party
own.
employers.
They don't even represent my own
Yes.
opinion. So why would those opinions represent anyone else's?
But you know,
We are
the fact that
performing.
we
Bastiano.
actually.
Do you kiss your mother with that mouth?
Oh, Mark, you love that.
So this is the spirit that I was imagining when we started the stream, Sebastian. Like mayhem, angry people coding, a chat with other people trolling. This is beautiful. I love it. And fucking Gradle. Come on.
I'm missing a little bit of trolling in the chat, to be honest.
I think
Yeah,
people
because
are trolling each other.
apparently just took Mark took an afternoon off apparently, and also Hugo. But you know,
Oh, and
they are shy.
it looks like
you know how-
Hiran Moles wrote something about
I hate that.
you hate
Do you know?
you hate what? Heron?
Do you know how to fix it or?
Oh, I thought you hated Heron. No. I don't
No,
know.
it's
I don't know
the
how to fix it, but Heron does. So we'll use this, I guess. Something.
what? No, it's just you just have to add to the build Gradle file. Let me.
Oh, you mean this one? Oh, this problem. Oh, I
Oh
hate
yeah.
when
Oh,
this
you were looking at
happens.
something else.
Yeah, I was talking about
No, that's
the
the
link that Maya put on the chat about how to make JUnit 4 stuff work with JUnit 5. So we have a potential solution to our problem. So what do we need
Can
to
we-
exclude
wait,
from
wait.
where?
Can we use JUnit 4 in instrumented tests and JUnit 5 in local?
That might be. I don't know. So where do I set the use JUnit platform? Apparently nowhere. Great. Then it should work. Oh, there's a double iteration.
Okay, I pasted on the chat what you have to add to the modules build Gradle.
Okay.
But I just realized that Twitch is not Slack.
Yeah, it's all right. We'll figure it out. Does that go in the Android Lambda or?
In the modules. Oh, sorry. I think in the Android. Yeah, Android. So I have a thing with calling functions lambdas, which is that I hate it because people call lambda or use lambda to refer to every single function now. Is it just me? Is it just my pet peeve?
No, it's not just you.
Okay.
Was that good enough? Oh, we need the. Do we need the LGPL one? I think it was only
you're
complaints
using
about
ATS.
Apache, but also this is
We'll just run it.
deprecated. Yeah, I'm just gonna sync and see if it runs. Come on, you can do it.
Okay, you're gonna spend a while. You know that's different, right? Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I think this is useful for people in the stream as well, which is that you when you see problems with stuff like this that says, oh, there's this file, I got it twice, I don't know what to do. This is AAPT, I think, that is saying, I don't know what to do because I have more than one copy of a file that is called the same way. So the easiest fix is this, which is saying to AAPT, don't skip these files entirely.
Package them. Don't package them. We have a question in the chat about the Lambda thing. I don't know if you got it.
Okay, one sec. Seb, I think this is deprecated. It should be resources.excludes. And by the way, I'm looking at the Google I/O code that is more or less up to date. So it is my reference nowadays, in case.
If you have a link, Jose, and then you want to put it in the chat, we are gonna add them to the
YouTube,
the notes. So the episode have notes, so people will see the link in the VOD once he hits.
Okay, we can try and run it now.
I totally agree.
Doing something.
Sweet.
Nice.
Green. Awesome. What were we checking?
If it ran at all.
It ran.
That's it, right? Okay. So, we were checking if JUnit 4 would be a problem.
Apparently, I haven't configured JUnit 5 correctly, so it's not a problem.
Good job.
It turns out that JUnit 4 and 5 can work together if you forget to tell Gradle to use JUnit 5.
Okay, so we found a way for interoperability.
Yeah.
So why did you think you were using JUnit 5?
No, I am using JUnit 5 because I am, I'm using JUnit 5, I'm using the JUnit 5 annotations and all that
Okay.
shit. But technically, maybe it's not needed anymore, but you used to have to do something like with type, and just put test, and then say use JUnit platform. And I would tell Gradle to use JUnit 5. I'm actually curious if putting this will break it, because that would be fun. But no, it seems to be doing whatever. So yeah, it works.
Because probably test is local test.
It's probably probably because it's a different kind of thing.
So Android test would probably be the type. I don't know. Well,
anyway, it works. That's fine.
Let's move on.
Just
So
before moving on, one quick thing
chat.
about the lambda thing.
Okay.
It's correct to call them lambdas here because they are lambdas in Kotlin DSL. Because this is a function that is taking a lambda, and this is a lambda.
Yeah.
If you were doing Gradle, that would be wrong because those would be closures.
Totally agree.
Thank you.
I tend to use body in this case because the fact that it's a lambda is a detail, and body is correct in all languages. But yeah, what Sal is saying is what I think. So function cannot take a lambda, right? It takes a function. The lambda is what you use to create the function, right? Is my understanding. Okay. All right. So now let's talk about create Android Compose rule versus create Compose rule. Android Compose rule is going to do something very similar to activity test rule. So it's going to start the activity that you define here. And that's it. You're going to be able to access it, get resources from the activity, and do all the Android-y things. Now, we have to think about a multi-platform future. Even if we never go multi-platform, it's good to have that level of abstraction in our heads constantly so that we do things more correctly. So in this case, I recommend going with create compose rule because there is a possibility, which is compose desktop. If we somehow are able to run our UI tests on your desktop, then the UI tests are going to be much faster and you won't need any kind of emulators or devices. CIs are going to be ridiculously fast, even compared to Roboelectric. So, just because there's a possibility that might happen in the future, I would try to keep everything pure. And with pure, I mean isolated from Android, which is basically the story of our lives, right? We always try to isolate from Android until the very last moment. So yeah, we're going to do the same thing. Now, the reason why we added the manifest artifact, remember? And also the reason why it's in test implementation is because the create compose rule is going to start an activity called component activity, which is part of the framework. And if you don't define this component activity in your manifest, then the app is going to crash, if I remember correctly. I think that was a problem.
I would expect it, yeah.
Yeah, because internally it's going to ask a component activity to open. Even though it's part of the framework, it has to be defined in the manifest. So that's the only thing that the manifest is doing. It's completely empty. If you look inside, you see that it just has a manifest with an activity called component activity.
There's a
no that is for tools.
Well,
there you go. It's
there.
Over there.
This one.
Yeah, exactly. Now, we're not sure if this is completely needed, but that's another story. So the thing is, I think the test, the Android X test APIs are doing this without this trick because they also use dummy activities. But anyway, that's another story. if anyone knows, we would appreciate. All right, so now we are doing a completely pure test. But of course, we need to set the content somehow. So what we do is we call set content, which is an extension function, or is it a function? I don't know, on compose test rule, which is the entry point to everything that you're going to do in here. So set content, and this is the cool thing. This could be a checkbox, or it could be a whole app. It doesn't matter. As long as you're able to, or a button. Yeah, it actually can be something that is not from your app at all, which is interesting to do, in case you want to do some tests.
So I can run it, and now it will just show, yeah, I am Jose there for a very brief second.
Very briefly,
yeah.
But yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's start with the onboarding screen, which is not, spoiler alert, it's not the one that we're going to use.
Okay, so this takes a bunch of things.
Yeah. So first one is already a problem. It's asking for a view model. And we could fake a view model, right? Open the onboarding view model for a second and see how feasible that would be.
Barely. This one is a very simple view model.
Yeah, but it is a view model, not an Android view model, which is a very good thing. Otherwise, you would probably have problems. And sure, you could probably fake it. Actually, you're just exposing 3 flows, right?
Yeah. Well, 2 flows and a Florina.
Yeah. Sounds like a movie title. Okay, so we could do this, but it's probably better to go one level lower. So if you open Control-click on onboarding screen.
Oh, right. Yep.
Yeah. So what does onboarding screen do? It's saving some state, collecting some state from the view model, and that's it, right?
Yeah, to be fair, I also have like an overload that has extracted all the behavior and all the values from the view pager for the reason that I need it for previews. Because in previews, I cannot create the view model, so that's why. And I think that could be useful for us now as well.
That's why I love the preview feature, because it's basically a preview on how your tests are going to look like. So whatever you have in preview, you can copy and paste it and slap it in a test, and it's going to work for sure. So just do that.
We have a question about modules and tests in the chat. And I think this is interesting.
Yeah, I think we already answered that. It was from a while ago, right?
No, it was no. I see.
No, I think it's just now.
I don't know if my chat.
Technically, this way you can run UI tests or espresso tests in feature modules, right?
Trying to figure out what they mean.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Maybe that every module is going to have their own set of Android tests.
Yeah. I think that's it, and that is completely correct. You don't need Android at all. There is no feature module around to get in the way, right? You just keep it pure, and you will have easy to create tests. Of course, this is going to get complicated, but for now, we can exhaustively test this screen without any problems. So, okay, did you run it? I missed it.
Yeah, it works. It just flashes on and then goes away, of course.
Okay, so shall we see the screen and try to figure out what things to do?
Sure.
So just run the app.
So one thing we could test is that the pager goes to the next page when I click next, and then it goes back when I click back. and then back appears when I click next, and disappears when I click back.
Sure. Also, the enable crash reporting, I guess, sets
Yeah.
calls some kind of callback that is defined.
Yeah, it would be one of these many somewhere something. I don't remember. Somewhere.
Okay, let's do next first, and then the next button first, and then we will do the enable crash reporting, because that one is going to be a little bit more tricky, because you have to verify that something was called on a function or lambda.
Okay, so where do we start?
So we start by opening the Compose testing cheat sheet. Can you open things? Yes. Someone is asking, well, the special tactics is asking how long did running this empty test take? It doesn't really matter, because in the end, you're going to be running these tests a lot of times on CI. So if you need to open an emulator, that is going to give you a huge overhead. So, it's probably some milliseconds or a couple of seconds, but it's not really relevant. All right, so in the cheat sheet, we can very quickly see what's available to us. We have a bunch of finders, assertions, matches, and what's the other one? I should know. And actions, that's it. So what we want is to find the next button and click on it. So let's try to do that. Now, there are no IDs anymore in Compose. IDs were a pain, but they were great for testing, because almost everything had an ID. So now we have to rely on the content descriptions and all the accessibility stuff, and also the hierarchies, of course. So let's try with on-node with text first.
Oh, this one, on-node with text.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
do I put it inside of set content or outside?
No.
Outside here, right?
You call compose test rule again, and that is your entry point to everything.
Okay.
That is a difference with Espresso.
I guess.
Oh, come on. Don't be fancy.
Okay, fine.
Not with text. Now, the first problem here is you probably don't want to hard code this, right?
No.
Yeah, so this is where we would stop with the utopian idea of having super pure tests, right? But for now, let's hard code it. Just
because we would need to get
I have a question about
Android resources to get the string value, right?
Yeah, exactly. And also, if you have your app localized, then it depends on the language on the device, and you don't want to rely on English only.
So that was the question that I wanted to actually throw at you. So here we don't have actually access to resources or context or anything.
No, because this is going to be at some point run on any platform, right? You're creating a test that is completely generic. So you don't know how resources are going to look like in desktop or web.
Yeah, because being Compose, basically you have one test for everything.
Exactly. So, that's the first limitation.
Mm-hmm.
And
I guess that probably also that's why we don't have IDs, because R.Java is actually an Android thing, so that's the first step away from Android in the direction of Compose is generic.
Exactly. So you basically have two options to overcome this. If you want to really make this a pure test, then you could somehow intercept the resources system, so that whenever the screen requests the string, the resource, then you return something that is pre-programmed. So that's one way to do it. But then, it would be too complicated. Right now, it's much easier if we just use the create Android Compose rule.
Okay.
Or we hard code it because we are sure that is going to be the string forever.
So what I've done is I haven't really ever seen these APIs, but it seems to be sensible that I check if the button exists and then I click it, right?
Sure. I mean, it's useful because you have that little description there. But of course, if you call perform click and it doesn't exist, the test is going to crash, and it's going to tell you that the next that a node with text next wasn't found, which is probably a good enough hint. But it's fine. It's better.
I was wondering, Jose, if I wanted to find, for example, the pager indicator here, how would I do that?
Oh, which understood are you using? RC01?
No, this is RC1 Arctic Fox.
Okay, I believe in Bumblebee we added you can try the layout inspector right now and see. By the way, pro tip, whenever you're not using the layout inspector, close it.
Yeah, I know.
because you're gonna have a bad time otherwise. So in Bumblebee, we added a bunch of semantics properties to this view, which are going to be very, very useful. Can't see a thing. So where are you?
I have selected the indicator down here, and it's here in the box that we're using, and
okay.
I'm just seeing that there isn't much here that we can use.
Which, this screams that you have an accessibility problem if you're not able to find anything you can use. So probably the pager indicator should come with some accessibility content descriptions and things like that. So it is already a smell that something is wrong.
I don't know, but I know which Chris Baines to send bug reports to if it doesn't.
But I'm curious to check if there is some property that we are not using, right? I mean, if
wait. What are we talking about? Yeah. So sorry, the semantics properties, which are the ones that we are looking for, are not available in Arctic Fox. They're only in Bumblebee.
But
so we cannot
only
see them right
for
now.
seeing them here in the layout inspector, right? But they would exist anyway in the code.
In the code, yeah, but good luck finding them. I don't know if.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Sometimes they are really deep in the hierarchy, so it might. I mean, you can search for dot semantics right now if you want.
Well. So.
No, I mean in this file, on this file.
Nope.
Yeah. Okay.
But
that's unfortunate.
I can do it here.
All right. So
looks like we might have a bug to open against a componist.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So one thing you can do is you can print the semantics tree. The semantics tree is the code. I mean, the data structure that holds all the accessibility information. And well, it's used for accessibility, but it's not in principle made only for accessibility. So it's called the semantics tree, not the accessibility tree for that reason. So you can type compose test rule.onRoot to find the root element. You can do this on any composable, of course. And then print to log. Add a tag to be able to see it. No way, Jose, would be perfect. But
okay, and let's run this. Also, let me close the layout inspector
Yeah,
because
close it.
so the way I generally close the layout inspector, I never remember how to properly close it.
I think you have to click on the minimize button, which is
And then
what?
yeah, I usually just rely on the balloon, but that's okay. So this has exploded. No compose
Which
views
is
found in the app.
Okay.
Interesting.
what are we
Did he
doing?
crash? Did he
It
crash
crashed in
before
here
the
though,
en
in
route?
en route. Okay.
No compose. That is super weird.
Can you comment out the first block, the on node with text?
Sure.
I'm just
no, but in any case, this is going to be printed to the to logcat. So check that first.
I'm just checking if I'm using. Maybe I should use Compose RC2. I don't think that makes a huge difference.
No, don't think so.
And plus, I don't want to.
Oh, it actually failed. It actually failed in print to log.
Yeah.
So you won't see anything. No. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
This is weird.
I mean, when the print line fails, you have a problem because that's the only.
As the old wise man says.
I mean, that's the ultimate debugging.
It was the freaking layout inspector. I told you.
Oh God.
Really? What?
It's always the layout inspector. Yeah. I followed back on this like 3 weeks ago again, and it's been looked at finally.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I can't promise anything.
The sad thing is that it says no logcat output here, but I'm quite sure
that never worked. Come on.
I'm quite sure I can find it. Maybe here. There you go. No, wait. This is Crashlytics bullshit.
This is not a semantics tree.
There you go.
There you go. That's it. So pretty.
Here you go. Oh, nice.
Okay, so let's see what the content description or text of the next thing is.
Give us access.
No, gives us access.
It's to. No.
Oh, the click is working, man.
Yeah, the click is working.
All right. Okay.
The click is working, and also because the pager is preloading the next page, I can also see the next. Well, the next n pages really, but that's fine.
You can also. Oh, you see all of them.
Yeah.
Because the pager is
paging.
Prefetching everything.
So I know the pager is tested extensively. So I'm sure
there you go.
There's a semantics tree telling you which page is enabled.
Okay, that's great. So maybe I can test that instead.
Mm-hmm.
So pager. Nope, there's no pager. What if I look for page? No.
Nope.
Let's try again. So
what would you say is the root node of the whole view pager? I mean, it's not a view pager anymore, a pager.
So this is the header, right? And I think this is the pager because it has a horizontal scroll thingy.
Oh, it's a selectable group. I think that's the key, by the way.
Okay. So I can maybe try and...
So you see selected false in node 8. It is not selected.
Okay. So this is not the current page.
That's exactly. So if you want to check for... I mean, are you really checking your app? What you're doing right now, I mean, if you were to do that kind of test, you would be testing the library, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, you say that, but you're assuming that I can actually wire the button click to the pager, go to the next page. So there is something that I'm testing technically.
Sure.
What I
Okay.
want to make
Sure.
sure is that, for example, I can ensure that when I'm on the first page of the view pager, the back button is not visible.
Yeah, that's a legit
So
test.
I need to get the current page from the pager in order to say the back button isn't there. Yeah, you're aiming.
Sure. I mean, you are kind of relying on an implementation detail of your screen. I mean, the fact that you're using a pager, it would be better to make sure that a specific text that is only visible on that pager is completely visible, and then using that to check as well that the back button is not enabled. I would go for that because if at some point you change the UI, that test is still going to work, right?
So what I could
but sure.
what I could do instead is to check that there
Check
is
that the button
no.
is not there.
So I would do assert does not exist.
But this is a completely different test. I mean, I'm happy to add this as a second test, but
Okay. So
okay. So the next button is being clicked.
Yep.
Now you assert that something on the second page is there. I mean, the super basic
Okay.
test.
So I would do on node with
Give us access or
let's
something like that.
yeah.
Let's assume that the back button is there.
Unacceptable!
What is unacceptable?
Everything is. So we want to do assert exists in this case, right?
Yeah, and that's it. I wouldn't, but yeah, okay.
Like, just
All
for
right.
me to understand, it's kind of like
Oh, no,
commenting
it's-
at the same time.
It's great. Now we name. Now that we see the test, we name it. That's how I do it. Now that I understand what I wanted to test, we call it next button goes to second page, right? Or something like that.
Okay.
You don't use the whole
Shift F6? Yes.
No, I mean state change. No, wait. Initial state change. Final state.
I generally use Schuld for unit tests, but
Oh, that, yeah.
yeah.
I'm used to the on first page underscore, click on next button underscore, moves to second
I
page.
tend to use nested for that. So I have like the on close would be a nested, like a subclass, and then in there I would have all the actions. So I would have, for example,
Sure.
like I did for the view model test, that I had the default, and then in there I would have all the different tests. So when you read the full name, it tells the whole story, but the test name is not, a book.
Sure.
To be more specific, okay. And also if I could type, there you go.
Okay, I would copy or clone this test and do the back thing that you wanted to do.
Okay. Should not show back button.
Also known as hide.
First page. Is it though? Okay. Fine. Yeah. Okay, so I guess what I would do is I just do back and assert does not exist, and that's it, right?
Oh, on first page. Sure. In that case, your name was better. Sorry, I thought. Yeah, I thought you were checking the state change.
I will also do that. I wanted to have the basic one and then show
Sure.
what happens if I essentially combine the two tests that we already have to assert that the back button goes away again when I go back.
Okay. We're losing viewers, so run some tests, man. people want to see those green ticks. Stop renaming things.
But I know what I'm doing, he
Maybe
said
exactly.
famous last wordingly.
Yes.
So I'm gonna go here. And I am going
Go
to
for it.
assert that it exists, but I'm not gonna write anything for now because we are losing viewers. Then I'm gonna
10 seconds to 2 hours. I can't believe it.
Does this work?
Can you please run them before the 2 hour mark? No, too late.
Hey, we had run them before.
Yeah, that's for sure. They are also passing. So now, do we trust them? Bam, bam, bam.
This is the first time. I've never seen this
had
in
a
my life.
failing test.
You mean
We
you've never
had
seen a
failing
UI test
so-
passing on the first try?
Okay, but let's talk about the good stuff. Second test took 700 milliseconds, and third one took 400, which is completely impossible to see.
Well,
yeah. But yeah. You could simply move these tests to the test source set and run them with Roboelectric, adding the dependencies, and it would be the second and third would be faster, but it would take like 8 seconds to load Roboelectric. But it's also good to know that you can do that.
But it only needs to spin up Roboelectric once per session, right? Not once per test.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's good.
So it's good if
this
you
is
have
fairly fast. It's quite good.
Yeah,
that's actually good.
So that's the thing. There are no. I mean, it is using Espresso, by the way, under the hood. So it is looking at, you know how Espresso works, right? It's looking at the window in the future to see how many events are scheduled. It's querying all the idling resources and all that. But we're not using any of those, right? We don't need to wait for coroutines to finish or anything like that. Also, we should mention things like infinite animations are taken into account. Like they are a special case that is solved in Compose already. So, and this request came from testing actually, which is a great thing. They are listening. I mean, it's not that they are listening or not. The testing team is part of the Compose team, which is not the case for views, right? Because there's the framework team, and then there's the
it's under Android
the
X,
team
right?
that the Android X test, which are different. They collaborate a lot, but it's not, you know, it's always an afterthought in the view world. But in Compose, every release they publish comes with tests, and they are using the same APIs as we do. So that gives us a lot of guarantees, which is great.
Yeah, it's really cool. So
yeah, the limitation right now is the resource thing. We probably need to look into that. So for now, I would just tell you to use the create Android Compose test rule. And one trick you can do, actually, do you want to do it? Or...
Can we write a test with create Android test rule? Because I want to see if I can run like from resources, because my app generally have localizations, even if it's just my pet project with English and Italian, because I can just add Italian for free. It would be nice to have like one example.
Sure. Let's clone this file because we're going to change a bunch of stuff, and would be I'm treating this as a sample, by the way, not as a real app. As you can see, it's I'm used to that. So instead of main activity, use component activity. So what we're doing is essentially what create compose rule does under the hood. this is exactly what it does. The only difference is that it's not exposing the activity to you. So you don't have access to resources, but in reality, you have it there. So if you want to access one of them, you do compose test. So on line 28, probably. No, let's get a reference to resources first.
Compose test rules, activity.
Oh, you have activity. Okay, this changed. Sorry. You can do it in line actually. So you can just resources. Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah. So it is the same thing. In practice, it's gonna run in the same time, but conceptually, it is a bit worse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Next.
So this one.
Mark says that.
Sorry, you were saying.
Mark says that Roboelectric is much more CI friendly. I disagree because I'm having so many problems with the roboelectric.properties file not being cached for some reason or being ignored sometimes. So if you know anything that I don't, Mark, please help me there because there's some issue there.
So I've just
So now we
put the resources up there so I can use them in all the tests.
Is that okay?
It's just get, so it works. It's getting it when I ask for it. It's not caching the value.
Sure,
yeah, that's
sure.
fairly important to point out. Yeah, you don't want to
Mhm.
put it here because if you just have like the resources equals compose that rules blah blah blah, the activity is not going to be there. But by the time you call it, by the time you get it here, the activity is created, so you should be fine, right?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if this is going to pass, so just run it to check one thing, and I'll explain later. When are we going to finish this?
When you want.
Okay.
When you feel like we have covered enough.
All right, so let's see what failed.
Next button is missing. Okay. So this one is missing.
Right. Are you converting to uppercase by any chance?
It might. I don't remember if the text is.
Can you?
Oh yeah. Okay. So
Yeah,
I need to
okay.
do ignore case true. Good point.
I would probably convert to uppercase instead of that.
Okay.
To make the because that way you test yet another thing, right?
That is a good point. Should I go with the locale or not?
So it's-
because this is gonna cause problems, probably.
Yeah, that's always a problem.
So I'm gonna use the
so I got distracted.
the non-local sensible version, but that comes in Kotlin 1.5. But yeah, it might cause issues in the future if your locale has weird rules. I don't know. Okay. Yeah.
So let me understand, because I got distracted for a moment on the chat. So the test was failing because we were checking the string as we have it in the string file, but actually Android is capitalizing it because on the button it's the default.
Yeah,
all
I'm
caps,
not
right?
sure if it's Android or if it's us, but either way.
I mean, it's not. It would be Compose, not Android.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, okay, yes, but the idea is that the system. Okay.
Would that be on the material layer?
Let me see. Button, text. No,
Oh no,
Yeah.
you're doing it yourself.
Yeah. I don't think it
Okay.
does it automatically
Okay.
because this is just a text, right? The text doesn't know it's inside of a button.
Ah, okay. Now I see. I
What
see.
do you?
Because on the old framework is doing it automatically, right? I mean, I remember that
Yeah,
we
the
have
views
it
do
for
that,
free.
but
Okay.
you were saying, Jose?
No, I didn't understand why you were still wondering if it was automatic, if you're doing it there. So
I was checking because I didn't remember because we did it like
so you're checking if there. So you were asking if there was a automatic way to do it, I guess, using the APIs instead of calling your uppercase.
you mean here?
No, I mean in the actual code.
Oh no, but I don't care.
Okay.
It's fine. Like here, I had to put it by hand because again, this is just a text. The text doesn't know that it's supposed to be uppercase.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think there's a way for the button to transform a child text to uppercase. Is there?
I don't think. But that's fine. Like that makes sense. Like you want things to be independent from each other because otherwise you start losing assumptions and you start losing the nice things.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I really like the fact that there's very little magic in the toolkit and that you don't have to just know things because you saw them at a talk by Nick and Chris, right?
So you were mentioning that the Android Compose rule is good, but not as good as the Compose rule. And you were saying that like there's some limitations, some issues that come with it, right?
Yeah, I mean, we just saw it, right? If you don't have access to the activity, you cannot test against things that use resources. So that is one big limitation. And the way to fix that would be to have a way from the test to define what those strings have to be beforehand, and then assert against those fake strings that you provide.
So
somehow.
passing them
So,
in as parameters to the composable.
I mean, that would be horrible because you would be polluting your
Yeah.
code. So the way I would think about solving it would be, but again, this is a very edge case, in case you really, really want to have a super generic test that runs everywhere. I would try to replace the whole resources system. So whatever in Compose is fetching the resources from the framework, you intercept that, and it's probably a composition local. Have you talked about that already?
Yeah, we have seen composition locals before. Yeah.
Okay. So from tests, it's super easy to intercept a composition local. You just, in the set content call, you provide a different one, and you can change things.
So we would have something like what would that be? Resources? Like local.
I don't know I don't know if there's a resources composition local. Maybe there's one for strings and one for.
Well, I guess the easy way is to go to a string resource and see what that does. It calls resources, which is taking the local.
It's a local context.
Yeah, is the.
So yeah, you could probably.
I could override the context, but do I really want to?
Yeah, exactly. It is a little bit broad, but yeah, this is something that I want to research, and if there's no good API for this, requested to the team because it is a very obvious problem.
Yeah, and it sounds like this is a scenario that would make a lot of people not be able to use the create compose rule, but rather the create Android composable rule.
Exactly.
So yeah, if you figure out something, that'd be cool. But in the meantime, we could either hard code or use the Android compose rule. I guess this would.
In the meantime, you are always going to use the create Android compose rule one way or another. So, so you don't care for now. But when you start thinking about KMP, you should probably know that there's this limitation.
Or maybe trying if we get to the point where we can run the integration tests on the compose for desktop, that would be another case where that would make a difference, right?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
the
exactly
the biggest use case for it.
I have one last question for you, which is for someone that, I will admit, I have not used Espresso too much. I haven't done many UI tests because most of the time that I was doing Android as a full-time job, we had QA, and QA would want to justify their existence by doing everything by hand or by writing, cucumber tests. And they wouldn't take too keenly on people writing Espresso, so I never got into it. But as far as I understand, and now I'm getting to the point where I'm forgetting what the question was. I'm getting old, people. That's a classic.
I can try to finish the question for you.
Try. I'm curious now.
Is Compose going to make UI tests suck less so that the engineers that code the app can be more motivated to create the tests so that we can get rid of QA?
That wasn't the question, but it's a good one. But in the meantime, it came back to me. So what I actually wanted to ask was, in this case, again, because I haven't really done Espresso tests, how do you deal with, like with Hilt, for example, and changing the graph? Because I can imagine, like what we mentioned is we can have our fake view model, and the view model is injected by Hilt, for example. So that would be a way to change it if the composable itself doesn't have it, because maybe the view model is used 5 layers down and it's injected by Hilt. So
yeah, this is actually a UI testing question. Well, it's a Hilt question, really.
So we need the other Spaniard.
Manu would be would do a better job explaining this, but we have an article which is the best way to answer one of these questions with a URL. We have an article called the Hilt Testing Guide, where it says unit tests, you don't need Hilt. End-to-end tests, you need Hilt. And this one explains very, very well how to replace modules at test time, which is exactly what you need to do. And it actually got better. In the beginning, it was a little bit, well, with Dagger 2 Android or Dagger Android, it was a little bit convoluted. And now it is just a little bit complex, but doable. So it's much better. If you want to see an example, look for uninstall modules, for example. You see.
Would it be in this guide?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that one. So you can use annotations to uninstall and install modules at will. And
so in a test, you would say, I don't want this module. Don't provide it for me. And then you can replace it with something else.
Exactly. And if your dependencies are not met, it would crash immediately.
Okay.
So
because
it knows
the power of compile time.
Exactly. Okay. So it is really, really easy and straightforward. Much, I mean, I'm able to use it, which says a lot. Whereas with Dagger, I had to make calls all the time, make phone calls. So
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So yeah, very, very easy. And again, it's up to you to create your testing story and how you create your Hilt modules so that you can replace what you need to replace in a at test time
without having to
basically, or
replace
before a test.
everything. So the idea is that you isolate the stuff that you want to be able to replace in a separate module, and then you just replace. You just uninstall that module and replace it with a test fake implementation. Okay.
Exactly, and to give some examples, you would normally or typically uninstall the analytics module. You would usually uninstall the coroutines module and replace it, installing a test coroutines module or something like that. And in that one, that is where you change all your dispatches to be either the test coroutine dispatcher, or you can even do everything on the main thread for tests. That's the typical use of this.
Yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Thank you. I literally had no idea how to do this, and this is quite straightforward. So that's nice. Yeah, because I remember back in the day when you had to do it with Dagger, it was like, where's Fabio?
Yeah, that's
the make calls approach.
That's more
there's always one person.
Pokemon. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, if you want to answer to finish up the stream, if you want to answer your own question about will this make people more prone to writing UI tests?
Yeah, obviously the answer is yes, but
we need a name.
The reason, so the reason is that in the past years we've been moving everything to background jobs, right? Things like, I don't know, Recycle View is now doing the diffing in the background, or data binding is using weird ways to schedule updates. I mean, not weird, but it's not using what Espresso looks at. So all those things are very, very hard to control from a test, even with all this Hilt business, right? So you end up wasting a lot of time. The good thing is that because we are replacing the whole UI with something completely new and something that is testable from day one, and it has to be tested, so there are no CLs, there are no PRs on that project without tests, especially in public APIs. So we have that certain guarantee that things are going to be synchronized correctly, which is the main problem with UI tests. The fact that you don't know where things are or why things are happening at certain points. So if you use Compose, we have that guarantee that from the view model to the framework, everything is synchronized with the test. Now, if we have covered what I call a screen test, or it's isolated, it's hermetic, so it doesn't go anywhere. But you could also do this with an end-to-end test. It is a little bit trickier. You might not even use the create compose rule thing. You might use activity test rule directly. It doesn't matter. The thing is, you can also do that and create an end-to-end test, but at least I have the feeling that I control much better what happens in the view model business layer, if you have one, or domain layer, and then in the repositories and data layer and all that, right? I have more or less control of what's going on, and I can intercept things to set where my test ends. So I think UI tests and end-to-end tests are going to be way, way less flaky and easier to write. So I think we're going to see less people in the QA teams, hopefully, and more people creating tests in engineering directly.
That's great. Thank you a lot, Jose. We'll we might end up calling you back to fix the tests that we tried to write in the meantime but fail. But if you want to, you're always welcome to join us again. I had a blast, and I think I've learned more about UI testing in 2 hours than in 3 years. So thank you for that. It was very good. And
Yeah, this was great. It just flew. 2 hours.
I told you.
24
I
minutes.
told you.
Wow.
It's fun, and you don't even realize how much time it goes by. And now that I've seen the time, I'm like, I'm starting to feel hungry. But before it's like, I gotta test things.
I want to actually thank Jose for sticking with us even for like one extra half an hour. The people in the chat were amazing. There was a great energy. I mean, it's like 2 hours and a half. Then we have the highest amount of people ever in the stream, and it was solid amount of people across the whole episode. People were engaged. I loved it. I mean, I have goosebumps. Fuck it. I mean, this is so good because this is so great. This is what we actually wanted to build. You know, people engaged, a community, talking live, and people in the chat and learning things. And the repo is gonna be open source. You can go there, copy paste our shit, and throw it in your code base or your pet project. And you know, you learn and you keep actually there is a, I don't know, I don't want to say legacy because it sounds dramatic, but we actually giving back to the community, and yeah, I'm loving it.
Yeah, I think Ivan is seeing the t-shirts already, right? He's
yeah
almost
actually
able to touch them. Yeah.
Super actually we're gonna get there the moment Uncle Bezos sends us some of the money that they say that we earned with subscription. We are gonna print t-shirts and stickers. We also have other mugs and things, so it's gonna be fun. Thank you again a lot.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Had a lot of fun, so thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone that joined us today, and don't forget to follow, subscribe if you enjoyed this. We are going to go on holidays for a bit from next week, so we're still gonna be on Sunday, but after Sunday we're gonna go on holidays. But we have some surprises for you in the meantime that we will tell you about on Sunday. So don't forget to join us on Sunday. Mark is going to be our guest again, and we have some really nice Compose animation stuff coming up that I'm very, very proud of. So yeah, join us please, and don't forget to no, Ivan, you have to say the YouTube part. I cannot say it. I'm sorry. I still have a dignity.
So yeah, if you well, I'm the brave one in the let's say the team. So jokes aside, if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you for sticking to the VOD. Hit the like button if you liked the episode. Subscribe because it's important for us. And again, if you want to see the VOD a bit earlier, you can subscribe on Twitch. And with the Twitch subscription, you can get to the VOD right after the stream, so you don't have to wait on YouTube, and you just take the money from Uncle Bezos and then give them to us. So that's actually legit.
Gotta love
so thank you again.
The Robin Hood vibe you're putting to it.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, the guy went to space for. I mean, really? I mean, what's the need for that? I mean, they were able to make the coolest thing that humanity did ever. I mean, everybody wants to be an astronaut. Now it's the lamest shit. You know, now it's the lamest thing ever. Going to space. Ah, fuck it. I don't want
you
to
just
go
need
anymore.
the money.
I mean, that's so lame. I mean, they ruined space.
Come on.
How can you do that?
Come on. Thank you, everyone. Have a good one. It's time for food. Bye.
Ciao.
Food.